Hey everybody, so Stay Positive number 10, we're already in the double digits, can you believe it? And that's all thanks to you guys for still listening, because then I guess I still keep making this. Thank you also to everyone who made it out to Harvest Moon Comedy, which happened on the 20th. I was so nervous because I was like, uh-oh, is nobody going to show up? It was the first time we were doing it, but look, people showed up, thank you. The bar, Lace's Bar, thank you to them for letting us basically use their space and making it a great time for us. And also all the comics who were hilarious. The people who I met who were like, can you give a shout out on your podcast? This is me doing that right now. So hello, shout out. And I also want to thank the people that I met this past weekend at the Empower 2019 conference, which happened in Little Tokyo in Los Angeles. It was put on by Collaboration. They do it every year. It was my first time ever participating, and I really had a wonderful time. I got to be on their comedy panel at 11 a.m. on a Saturday, which doesn't sound early, but I did have to get there even earlier for like a mentoring session, and I loved everybody I met, but I'm sorry if I was low energy because I'm a sleepy girl and I sleep in sometimes. I really was just also inspired by listening to other people speak. It would have been perfect for this podcast because everybody was saying really inspirational and positive things, so that's how I wrap it in. So I have something to plug today because it pertains to the guest I'm having on. So recently I started a new Instagram channel or handle or whatever you want to call it with my pal who is the guest, and it's called Winspiration Wednesdays. And it's basically, I don't want to give too much away, but it's basically like a parody of, if you ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk, who's on Instagram and is sort of this wine mogul or something. Just these folks who are out there who are kind of pushing positivity in a way that seems, very short clips, motivational, but sometimes empty. And it's funny because I do this podcast where I'm genuinely, trying to instill some positive conversation and like see what the secret to all that fun stuff is. But I also think sometimes it's fun to make fun of people being genuinely, inspirational. So anyway, I'm making a lot of nonsense right now, but if you kind of get what I'm talking about, or if you don't at all, I still encourage you to go on your Instagram and go to Winspiration Wednesdays, search for that handle, and follow us because we put out content all the time, and I use the word content very loosely here. Yeah, it might make you laugh. I don't know. So my buddy that I'm having on the podcast today is the guy I made Winspiration Wednesdays with. He's hilarious. Known him for a while since college. He is a comedian, actor, writer. He wrote for Netflix's Magic for Humans. You can see his stand-up soon on Amazon Prime's Laugh After Dark, but also he's here on Stay Positive. So what else do you want, So before I blab way too much, here is Sam Clark.
Is this a real succulent?
So it's a real succulent, and I thought, oh wow, how cool, like it's red.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy that, and then it was spray painted. Red, and then
this is a fraud,
gold, and then
a fraud
gold
succulent.
On the inside, so I should have known.
Wait.
Got it from Osh.
So this is a normal green succulent.
But like,
that
why
they
would you spray paint a poor plant?
Isn't
that
that's
sad.
I assume that's bad for the plant.
But succulents, people buy them because they're low maint.
Right, and they just spray painted it. That's
and then also I'm filming, so.
Hey.
So cheat out, get your light.
I'm gonna get my light, and I'm glad the camera can see all 3 cups that I have.
Triple cup Sam.
I have a caramel macchiato from Starbucks. I have a cup of water because Sierra said I need to stay hydrated.
Yeah,
and
coffee's a desiccant.
Desiccant.
It makes you pee a lot, but then you know what pee's
desiccant.
made out of? Water. Is it not desiccant? No, not desiccant. What's the other one?
What's the
diuretic?
Diuretic. What is a desiccant?
You know what diuretic sounds like? Dianetics.
Diarrhea. Oh.
Oh, and diarrhea.
Nice.
Dianetic Scientology. But no.
Liquid poops
what is
and
a
Scientology.
desiccant? A desiccant is desiccant's rice. It's like the things that absorb a lot of water.
Okay, so that's the.
I'm sorry.
Descant. That sounds like descant.
Let me also start this. So
descant, which is like the high part in singing. In some
I didn't
songs.
know that.
I know that because in my youth I was in Sierra, I was in the Rocky Mountain Children's Choir before I went through puberty, and I was a soprano 1, so
Good.
I sang the descants.
Oh.
So
Is
I was
that
a little Jewish kid, but I said the hallelujah, hallelujah,
Oh, good.
hallelujah,
Yeah, you get the
hallelujah.
full spectrum of religion.
Yeah.
And then what happened? You hit puberty and they kicked you out?
I hit puberty, and they created a new division within Rocky Mountain Children's Choir called, quote, Mountain Men, which was for all... I'm dead serious.
You went from
I'm
high boy
dead
to
serious.
mountain man.
I'm high. Well, so the levels in Rocky Mountain Children's Choir. Sorry if I'm like really derailing the beginning of this,
fine.
but
this
this
is
feels.
Good. I like to do this before we
this
show
feels
the
important.
guests.
Yeah. They're gonna know everything about my
Right, it's
singing
better.
past. It was Montane, Timberline, Alpine, and Summit. Like
Ooh,
the levels.
good
You're right.
job.
Those were the levels.
Beautiful.
But then if your voice changed, they were like, sorry, you can't do this anymore. You're a mountain man now.
So you're just like
and so then,
slumming it at the bottom?
No. Yeah. So then there was just another division of the Rocky Mountain Children's Choir, which was all these like awkward mid-pubescent boys.
Or like, boom, boom,
Bum, 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 with like an occasional,
right,
little
right,
blip.
yeah. Unpredictable.
Anyway,
But that's great.
hey, Sarah.
Hi. All right. So this is Sam Clark, hilarious comedian, friend, and pal.
Friend and pal.
Friend
Sierra
and
and I
pal?
go way back.
Go way back. But,
Thank you for having me.
What? Yeah, I don't know. How would you define yourself?
How would I define myself?
I don't
Ooh.
want to speak for you.
Let's see. In terms of my relation to Sierra in
yeah.
particular,
How do you know
we
me?
went to college together. We met while we were
Fap proctors?
yes, FAP was the freshman arts program.
Yes.
So Sierra and I, as elder statesmen of the college, mentored little freshmen on their artistic
knew my
journeys.
they if you ask them, I was not there.
They were like,
because I was
"Who
often
is
busy
that?"
doing other
Being
fun recreational
in the corner.
things. I was hanging out in the corner. Sam
Yeah.
would, make sure that I didn't make any actual contact with the students.
Yeah, I
but
would make
it was
sure
all
if
good.
Sierra fell asleep, I'd be like, "Hey, stop." Usually.
Yeah, you'd be like,
So we
ignore
met
that person in the
yeah,
corner.
so we met during that, and then we became friends, and we did a bunch of video stuff together. We made some funny videos, and then we
Sklark and Skatow,
Sklark and Skatow.
famously.
Famously, we made one video like that, and then also
We
with
did.
like this comedy news show, and then we hosted a bunch of things together.
Yes.
Um,
did
What the fuck did we? We
Variety
we
shows?
hosted
I don't
variety
even
shows and
know
stuff,
what
and then
that's
I moved out here to Los Angeles and started doing comedy things, and then I
Amazing.
twiddled my thumbs for a fucking year
Right.
waiting for Sierra to then graduate and move
I
out here,
know.
and then
But,
she moved out
yeah,
here,
thank
and
God you
then
didn't,
now we're
you
friends
know.
here.
Start anything. Sam, don't move.
Thank
Wait
God
till
you
I'm
did
there.
nothing in your first year out here.
Yeah, right. I mean,
But that's a definition for
actively
myself.
made you do that.
Like Sam,
But
you
yeah,
need to
great.
cease
So
all.
it's- don't
activities.
don't look out the window. Nothing's happening out there.
Don't
Just
do anything. Just
wait.
sit on your hands.
No, but I mean, and then and you've worked in television.
I worked in TV. I've
You're a
written
writer's
on-
assistant for Comedy Central show and writing for Netflix's Magic for Humans.
Magic for
which is
Humans.
so crazy.
It is a
Oh my
delight
God.
of a show, and
Well,
it's mind-blowing.
so fun, and I hope that you work on it again. And then on
Fingers
top of
crossed.
that, you know what I just watched last night?
What'd you just watch? last night?
Shin Lim. Do you know Shin Lim?
Lim.
Okay, it's
He's
probably
the
another
card flare guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like
I
America's
obsessively.
Got Talent.
Yeah. I
Right.
obsessively watch his videos.
But like his whole thing, I mean, very different from Justin Willman in the sense that like doesn't talk, no funnies, like it's all
No
about
funnies, all
mysterious
flair.
and like a lot of like close-up magic. But it was amazing.
We should contact him and be like, "Excuse me, sir, no funnies, all flair
funnies.
should be the name of your memoir. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
we'll
you.
take
Goodbye.
3%.
Yeah,
we don't
yeah,
need
that's-
much.
That's fine.
But yeah, magic. I had never done anything having to do with magic before writing for Justin's show.
yeah, I mean,
But it
fooled
was
me.
just a pure positive delight of a thing to work on. It
Yeah,
was just
that's
like, let's wow people for the sake of wowing people. Let's make people laugh for the sake of just making them laugh.
Yeah, and then you guys had like a lot of segments with kids, and I feel like that works super well with you because you work with kids a lot.
I do. So I have been doing martial arts. I've been doing taekwondo since I was 10 years old. But a
I don't know
wee
if I
little
knew that.
10-year-old.
Taekwondo,
There's good pictures that I can send you of me when
yeah.
I had glasses and I had to have like a strap in the back to keep them on because they would fly
I mean,
off
what else
during
are you gonna
kicks,
do? Right, yeah.
And I had bangs. Yeah, and then in high school, after I got my black belt, I started teaching, and ever since then, I've been teaching little kids.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like, and today when you're in Starbucks Reserve, you're texting me wildly about a child that was going crazy. It is close to Halloween, but we can't mention that because I don't know when this is going to come out.
With this,
we're
whenever
in
this comes
time and
out,
space. We
we're
don't
in
know
a
where
time
we're
and
in
space where it's okay to be in whatever costume you want.
But yeah, so the kid was in a Captain America costume and was just like flitting about.
It was a delight. I was
crazy.
there. Listen, I may have imbibed some alcoholic substances last night. So
Okay. I thought you meant like this morning. I was like, wow.
Oh,
Sam, really
Sam,
putting in
bold
the work,
move!
putting in the
Wow.
work. Yeah.
No, last night, and so I wasn't feeling 100% this morning. So en route to here, I had to stop at the Starbucks, and there was a little kid dressed as Captain America, just running very consistent
have a
laps
cape?
around. He did have a cape.
Okay.
He had a let's be honest, it wasn't the best
shield?
costume in the world.
Oh,
It was
well.
like a Captain America t-shirt and then a cape
Try
and
a
like,
little
yeah,
harder.
try a little harder.
But
4-year-old.
yeah,
And he was just running
some
laps,
effort.
just consistently running laps, an utter delight.
Were his parents there?
His mom was behind me and generally unbothered.
I feel like as a parent, I would be like, this is great. Get it all out here.
Get it out.
Get it out at Starbucks while I get my coffee and
100%.
catch up to like your
Well,
level.
and that's why I think parents, especially little kids, love me and the other instructors when they come to drop their kids off for
like,
Taekwondo.
Beat up this guy, not me.
Fight this young
Fight this
man
man.
and not me.
Right.
Well, and what I always start classes, especially with the little kids with, is basically just have them run laps. Have them run laps,
Good.
and then I'll
Get it
say,
out.
stop. And then because the very, Taekwondo-y thing, they have to go, stop, sir. And they like come to attention. And then I'll be like, now do
nice.
push-ups. And then they'll do push-ups. They'll get up, they keep running. And they get so exhausted. And there's such an utter delight that 5-year-olds have in just the act of running and then jumping and giving you a high five. Like they will just giggle their asses off being like, this is the best thing
Are you putting it like a little
ever.
high?
Yeah. So I'll just stand with my hand up in the air and they'll run past and give me a high five and they'll be like, this is the best shit ever.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I
Adorable.
like teaching kids it is a job, right? And sometimes there are little demon children and they are awful and terrible and I mostly blame their parents.
Right.
And they raise my blood
Shout
pressure,
out.
but
Shout out to the
shout out to
parents.
their terrible parents. But like 75% of the time, it's like it's a genuine stress relief and like happiness inducing to be like, if no matter what kind of shitty day I'm having, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, these kids are like so freaking happy and
Totally.
positive to just be kicking things and screaming and yeah.
Yeah, that stage of life, like, because and then I know you kind of have different ranges, but
Yeah.
the young ones I know you like a lot, so it's maybe what you said, like 4 to 8 or something?
Yeah, the like little kids group is like ages 4 to 7,
4 to
and
7.
they can't do a whole hell of a lot because they can't even tie their shoes really at that
Right,
age.
yeah.
But some of them
Losers,
have gotten really good, and there are some kids who I was there when they started, and like, there's a kid who's one of our best students now who initially wouldn't leave his mom's lap, and he wouldn't look anyone in the eye,
Right.
and he was just like terrified of the whole thing, and now. He's super confident. He's on top of it. Sometimes he gets a little bit too crazy, and we're like, "All right, settle down." But it's like a little bit of badge of pride. I'm like, "Oh, before you wouldn't even make
Right.
eye contact with me, and like you would bury yourself in your
Oh,
mom's
I
thigh."
know.
And then
What a
but on
blossom.
contrast, like we have a couple kids who were like super, I guess, issues to begin with, and they were off the walls and they wouldn't listen, and now are super disciplined. So I feel like something like that not only really, really excites kids and is so positive and wonderful, but also like, yeah, for the squirrely kids, it can make them more disciplined, and for the super shy kids, it can make them more confident, and that's like
In like
such
an
a cool
active
thing to
way,
see.
too,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
still tied to like fun.
yeah,
But, like, and I guess that's why people put their kids in sports and stuff.
totally.
So you did Taekwondo, did you do other sports, and did you take classes like from people who you're like, oh, thank you, now that I'm in your shoes?
100%. Yeah. So, honestly, like one of the most positive influences in my life ever was this woman named Teresa, who was Teresa. Shout out to Teresa. I'm gonna send this to her, and she's gonna be so hyped because
Aw,
she's so
yay.
wonderful, and she labeled herself in the best way my second Jewish mother. She's not Jewish, but she was like, I get what your mom's doing.
Right. Yeah.
But she was, first of all, she was one of the first like master instructors, who was a like female master instructors in like the Colorado tri-state area, because she's a badass. But she was also the instructor who was teaching the day that I started doing Taekwondo. And at that stage, like I had done soccer, I had done basketball, I had sort of done baseball, and just gotten like hit in the knee with a baseball, and then it was like, no more of this.
None of these ball
I was
hits.
too weak as a little kid to get the basketball all the way up to the hoop. Like I was a teeny little
because,
kid.
like, I mean, what are you trying to get it in like the NBA level, like 10-foot hoop?
Yeah, I guess.
hard.
I was very weak and very small. So I wasn't good at any of those sports, but then like for whatever reason something clicked in Taekwondo, in large part because like of this woman Teresa, who I think saw that I had a lot of energy but didn't know what to do with it. And she was very, very good at being like
Channeling
matching my energy and then like focusing it on like something super specific. Whereas like soccer, it's like, oh, kick the ball. But she was like, no. You need to make this specific foot position to make this specific kick really effective. And I was like, okay, cool.
Oh, okay. Well, that's challenging though, because it's so much like actual coordination. I feel like at least with, well, I mean, sports too, other sports too, but like especially like body, because it's kind of like dance. I think about dancers.
It's very, it translates very, very easily one to the other.
Right. Yeah. Like super aware of their bodies and like how to do certain things, whereas I'm just like flailing. Like, I don't understand which wrist is which. But it's
which
like,
wrist?
Yeah, like what?
I have 7 wrists.
Also, like it's super rare that somebody would be good at a skill and then also be able to teach it. Like I don't know,
sure,
it's not necessarily go hand in hand.
Yeah, no, I like a very, very good martial artist might not be a very good teacher, and honestly,
especially
and like
kids.
vice versa. Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, but what's been very cool, like this woman Teresa, like ended up being, she sort of mentored me through martial arts and through competing in martial arts, but then also through teaching, and she, kept big track of like all my other endeavors and whatnot. Like she was
nice.
Super. She would like repost whenever I would like do drag musicals and stuff in college.
Great.
Like I wouldn't have seen her in months,
So
and she's like, "This is my former student in drag, and look at him go," sort of thing.
Proud.
Like, yeah, and she's always been like so supportive and positive, and I think you can find that kind of influence, in a lot of instructors in martial arts or in coaches and other things. But yeah, she was someone in particular who was like who sort of crossed from instructor or coach to like mentor and sort of family.
Ooh,
and it was awesome.
Very special person.
She's also very funny and goofy.
Good job.
Huge shout out to Teresa.
Good job, Teresa. But yeah, all right. Well, that's awesome. So then now you're kind of like in a Teresa position where you get to be somebody's Teresa.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, it's also not like your main focus. I understand that.
Right.
It's like not necessarily as intimate maybe, but that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then, well, I guess like I'm wondering too, like, how does that help feed into like your other work?
Sure.
Or, like,
sure.
Because I think we're in, and I like to have, sorry, there's like flies everywhere. It's fine. It'll be fine.
It's quite, it's
but
okay.
no, like I guess I wonder, because I like to interview people who are in this particular business because it is so volatile, but also just like the time is very volatile.
Sure,
and like
sure.
everything feels a little unsure.
Yeah.
And I guess like going from being, a student to like we were both students and we were at a college that's like 4 years, and like a lot of people get like traditional jobs afterward and kind of have more of a plot.
Yeah.
And I think we gravitated towards this doing comedy or business or comedy business or entertainment business because
business.
Because it's kind of a little bit more like, ooh, who knows what's going to happen.
Right.
That's exciting about it. But then, at the same time, that's why we have to get these other jobs because we're like, well, if we're not employed, then I got to make money somehow because I got to live.
Right.
And so I guess like, what is it like balancing those two things? And then like, I don't know how you keep everything okay when in those times where you're like unsure.
Right.
Because I also like have no idea.
Totally. Right. Well,
it happens all the time.
What's simultaneously exciting about being in the comedy world is what's absolutely terrifying about being in the comedy world. Right. Like anything can happen at any time. The notion of getting your big break or whatever can happen. Like sometimes you can be writing for a Netflix show for 3 months and then that's done. And it's like, what's next?
Well, there's
I
more
don't
months.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, something like, martial arts has always been super grounding for me and very like a very positive influence, both like the practice of it and teaching it. And I think in very different ways in school versus now. Like in school, there were like very high stress times, but everything was very regimented and I can sort of expect everything that was going to go down. Right. So in that case, martial arts was more of sort of like a stress relief and a break from from all that. But like now I think it's much more like there is something that's comforting and wonderful about how sort of regimented and regular it is. Where I'm like, I know,
so
like,
rare, right?
I'm like, I know every, I'm like, I don't know if I'm
way.
going to have a show booked this week, but I know that on Wednesday I'll go teach these kids. Hopefully none of them will cry or pee.
Right.
And they will smile and be happy and yay, martial arts.
Do they pee?
I actually, at this particular martial arts school that I teach at now, shout out to Panther Martial Arts on Hollywood Boulevard. Sign your kids up for it. It's the best.
Yeah. If they're not big peers.
Unless they're big peers.
If they're big peers, take them down the road.
take them elsewhere. Okay.
Panthers.
What I was going to say, I have never had a pee incident at this particular school.
Good.
But I've had pee incidents in other places where I've taught martial arts. Taught martial arts, excuse me.
Fair.
But yeah, and what
You gotta pee.
you gotta pee. Well, and I'm lucky enough now that I make money from teaching martial arts, but it's not like I don't need the money from it because I'm also a job that I have now is I produce videos for this education company.
Yeah.
It's a very wacky setup because it's a New Zealand based education company, and they're like, hey, American
boy
video.
American.
Excuse me, American video boy,
Hey,
but in a Kiwi accent,
the
which I
movies.
can't do. I hear Kiwi accents now every day via Skype, and I cannot do them.
Different than Australian.
It's like Australia light, and I don't know if that would be an offensive thing to say.
I don't know.
Here's what I've heard is that what I've extrapolated is like the analogy, right? Canada is to the United States as New Zealand is to Australia.
Ooh.
In several ways. In that like Kiwis and Canadians are like the more chill version.
Got it.
More chill,
Maybe-
potentially less racist version of their other counterparts.
Yeah, fair enough.
I digress though.
But yeah, no, I would love to. I know there is a Kiwi accent, but I already have trouble distinguishing between Australian and British.
Oh, I do.
I'm sorry.
My boss says
Anyway.
epic a lot.
Epic.
Oh,
All
this
right.
video is going to be epic.
Oh,
Epic.
okay. Yeah, I believe.
and it is. We make some epic videos.
Once you like put words and accents into like spelling them out, like I when I hear that, I hear IPIC. So it's like
IPPICK?
epic. And then I'm
Epic?
like, oh, I have
Oh,
the accent now.
I
Epic.
understand. Epic. But that's a fantastic job because I get to, they hired me, American Video Boy, and my best friend, Gus, who is also an American Video Boy.
Yeah, two American
they hired
Video
us as a
Boys in
package
one
deal.
company?
Yeah, to make their videos for them. The idea being like, we go to colleges and do like a day in the life
Right,
of a
yeah.
UCLA student. And it shows
Amazing.
for like international students or students who might not financially be able to visit a college. It enables them to watch a video and be like, oh, this is what it's actually like on the ground, not from like the pamphlet or the website.
Cool.
So that has meant, especially within all of the sort of flux and uncertainty of the comedy industry and of like trying to get writing jobs, trying to get stand-up gigs, that sort of thing, like that has very, very luckily, and I'm so lucky to have gotten this opportunity. Like I'm able to get consistent pay and consistent work, and it's in a field that I like. It's at the very least like industry adjacent in that.
Yeah, and it's creative, and you're learning skills that.
Yeah, I
You
used
need
to
to-
I used to look at it. I have. Again, I'm lucky enough to have friends who are very talented videographers and whatnot. And I used to, if we were filming like a man on the street thing or a sketch thing, I would like look at the camera and be like, there's a lot of buttons on that and you're good at making them happen. But now I too know how to do videography type
you
stuff.
totally
And
do.
like, so yeah, that's been
Show me
cool.
some
And I think
things.
as a roundabout,
Aperture.
Ooh,
Is that
aperture.
aperture?
Aperture is a word related to cameras, and I now
Hello.
know more about what it means than I did before.
Aperture, yeah.
Aperture. I don't know how to say aperture in a Kiwi accent. Aperture. Actually, that might be an aperture.
They just only say epic. That's in my head.
Epic aperture.
But yes.
Yeah.
So that's great.
But yeah, the
learning
roundabout
skills.
answer is like, I think it can be important both, financially, yes, but also just routine wise to get some sort of level of like stability and
having a little bit of external pressure.
Yeah.
You get your mind set
Totally,
in the right set.
totally.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I spend so much time alone doing like freelancey stuff that I like lose capability of like speaking to humans. I was literally like luckily yesterday I was like hanging out with people. Wow.
Ooh, we've talked before about the value of a community.
Community. Oh yes.
Find friends, find community.
I'm big on community.
Sarah's a
wanting to
big
build,
proponent of community, yeah.
Friendships, socializing. But sometimes I go a while without like meeting new people because
So real.
I
Yeah.
spend a lot of time here. I see all my close friends, my
Right.
boyfriend, all the things. But I don't necessarily have to like be like, oh yeah, when I'm talking to somebody who doesn't already know me, maybe there's like certain things you should do or say that's like a little different. Put them at ease.
Maybe this is how you interact with humans.
So yeah, yesterday, like I hung out with a lot of people I didn't know. So we were working on some sketch, and I realized like, oh, I'm not great at this. I also had a dinner with somebody that I didn't know, and I like tried to reshake her hand when I showed up. I was like very stressed about parking.
A
and
double
then I
hand
was
to
like,
shake?
Oh, okay. And then I'm like, why am I shaking her? I've
You're like,
already
"Shit,
met her,
did we
but this
already
is like
shake
the first.
hands?"
Yeah, it was like very embarrassing. And then
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
yesterday, luckily I was there for so long that like over the course of many hours, then you loosen up. But
Right.
I shouldn't have to need like 8
Right,
hours to
right.
get to know someone.
8 hours to like
so it's
to a
good to
normal
have-
human interaction.
Right. And so I feel like it's good to have, something that forces you to get out
Yeah.
as much as it, but especially if your job is working from home or like, doesn't necessarily
Totally.
require it, then that way you can like, I mean, whatever, you don't need this because like I need this because like I'm naturally, I think, a little weird. But you've always been a social person. Sam's the kind of person, I feel like you're the kind of person where like when we would walk on campus at school, it's like, oh, who's this now?
Who
being
the fuck
another,
is
another
this?
friend, and you're very like joyous about greeting people,
I'm a
which is
joyous
something
guy. I like some
I
greeting.
enjoy because look, I don't know. I feel like sometimes when I want to say hi to somebody, if it's somebody that I don't know how they feel about me, and it could be something where like they also just are a little like, I don't know how she feels about me.
Right.
Then we're both just like, hi. But then if you have somebody who's like, hey, then I'm like,
What's
oh, I
up?
like that person more, so I can feed that energy as well.
Yeah.
Feed off that energy, and I feel like you're the kind of person who came out the gates like, yeah, and then I'm like, oh, well then I know like where we stand, which
Right.
is ha.
Yeah, Sierra, I
is
sort of,
great.
I deeply appreciate you saying that. I think I feel like to an extent I like screamed our friendship into existence.
And I think I need that.
I was like,
sometimes.
Sierra?
Be my friend. We gotta be friends.
We're friends now.
And that can be. Oftentimes you need that. It's like
Yeah.
jumping into the deep end of the pool.
You jump into the deep end.
You just gotta
And
do it. I've always been a steps girl, but how annoying is that? Nobody likes that girl.
I was a deep end kid in a very literal sense in that at the Denver Jewish Community Center, the
DJCC.
the lifeguards and the camp counselors at the day camp that I was at called my parents repeatedly to tell me he needs to literally stop jumping into the deep end because he
dangerous.
thinks he knows how to swim and he doesn't know how to swim.
So
I didn't know.
Like save you every time. Oh my god!
And I straight up I would just like leap into the pool and be like, "This is fun."
And you would do this multiple times.
I would do this multiple times, and I would have to keep getting rescued by the lifeguard. And I think like in
that
my,
says a lot about your personality.
it really does. And I think like as a little youth who couldn't swim, I was just like, "Oh yay, the lifeguard's scooping me
Right,
up
you're
again."
like, "Oh,
and I was
this is
like,
how it
"This is how it's done."
happens,"
And they were
right.
like, "He needs to stop.
I mean,
He's
otherwise
stressing the lifeguards
they're
out."
sitting there the whole day.
Yeah,
I'm sure you like a little excitement.
I like to think I added some
But
excitement to their life.
that's a really big deal, and that's what I'm always fascinated. I mean, going back to kids, but that's what I'm always fascinated about kids who are more like you,
Right,
Because I don't
right.
think I was that kid. I don't think my
Yeah.
sister was that kid, and
Yeah.
so we're like, well, maybe it's the way we're raised. But when you're a kid, it's like literally there's so little time to
Right.
change them. So like that must have
Totally.
been just partially like ingrained,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is really cool.
Right.
So and then on the other end of the spectrum, it's like cling kid. So
Right,
it's
right.
like, where
Yeah,
does cling
well,
kid come
and that
from?
is
Clinging to the
that's a
leg
cool
of the parent.
thing to see while teaching is like see the kids who
Yeah.
are off the walls and see
Right.
how they can sort of moderate that for lack of a better word. And
Everybody
like
kinda
we
needs
never
some
want to
help.
like stomp on that energy and that
No,
excitement,
yeah,
but it's a question of sort of funneling it to something productive. And the clinging kids be like, hey, I guarantee you're probably going to have more fun today if you're not holding onto your mom's thigh and instead are
Yeah.
doing a kick. Because they always have they're holding on their mom's thigh and they're sort of like slightly twitching when they like see the kicks because they like you can tell that they want to kick,
yeah.
but they don't want to like be out on the floor. They don't want to be
What a
exposed. They
metaphor
don't want to
for
be.
life.
What a metaphor for
But
life.
actually, I mean, so much is like breaking out of your, like, maybe my expectation for myself is that I'm clinging to my,
to the
comfortable
proverbial
things. Yeah.
maternal thigh.
right? And so if you see something, you're like, oh, well, maybe I should do that.
yeah.
And, But this is what's expected of me, and that's fine.
Right,
And
right.
then, then you never get to try to kick.
Exactly. Try to
Gotta
kick.
try to kick.
Well, I think that is a big reason among many other things why we became such good friends. We're very contrasting energies.
Contrasting energies, and then and I feel like I always gravitate towards people who are like, I'm like, I don't even understand how.
I don't get
in
your
a,
shit.
I don't understand you.
I'm
but like
about it.
how you're naturally this way. And then, and like also it's great because, I like to surround, I mean, podcast, here we are. But love a good positive bud. You're always keeping things in perspective, which is good.
Yeah. I think that's good to do.
Yeah.
And I think that can, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, the idea of like, I think a lot of the reason that people don't necessarily like LA or like the entertainment industry is that it can feel isolating and cold and whatnot. And like we've talked a bunch about like the fact that it's like, oh, LA is like, there's been ups and downs, but it's been pretty good because of friendship.
Yeah. Community.
And because community. And I think it can
Community,
be very exciting and fun to like bring together disparate groups of folks who otherwise wouldn't know each other.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Like our good friend Josh Brown is a friend of mine who we did plays together at aforementioned Denver Jewish Community Center together, and then he moved out here, and then I was like, Josh is a good friend of mine. Sierra's a good friend of mine. They should both be friends with each other.
Pals. We've played Quiplash.
We played Quiplash, and on
watched
Sunday,
Bob Ross. Oh, we're going to medieval times.
We're going to medieval times.
Which is a big
That's going to be a very positive.
Our self care.
We're going to medieval times, everybody, and I'm very excited.
Wow, that's huge.
We're gonna watch knights fight each
Knighting
other
and fighting
for our entertainment. While we eat chicken with our hands.
There was an option that you could dine with the queen.
You can dine with the queen.
Which was more expensive.
I think you have to pay like $40 more.
Too much. But
you can see the queen from afar.
I mean, yeah, and I guess you befriend
you get like knighted in front of everyone.
Oh, that seems pretty exposed.
Yeah. That's a bridge too far. I'll say.
I need to cling to my parents' leg instead of getting knighted in front of everyone.
I don't want
that. Even though I probably want to get knighted. You know, you're like deep down, you'd be like,
deep down.
Like fun.
Right?
But,
no, we're gonna look at the 12-year-old who's having a birthday party and getting knighted, and we're gonna be like, oh, damn it.
We should pay $40 more a person.
Damn it. But it's gonna be some fun community times, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, big day.
Big day ahead.
Love to build community.
We love community.
What about?
Yes.
What? Okay. So
Hit me with it.
I got more. What about? Okay. So here's like kind of a blanket question I ask everybody. Is have you had a low point? And if you're comfortable, would you elaborate on what that low point is? And whatever that means to you.
Sure. Yes. That nicely aligned with a voice crack. Yes. I am a mountain man, as you know. Right. Yeah, I mean, pretty soon after I moved to LA, I was carjacked at alleged knife point. And I've done many a joke about this, and it has been very therapeutic, actually, to do jokes about my car getting stolen and getting sort of traumatized from it and all that. And honestly, like that sort of combined with, because that was the second or third month that I was in LA when my car was stolen. And and it was like, obviously the car getting stolen and the trauma of that happening in person was like that was,
I don't want to get stabbed.
Right. That was the big event of it. That was a low point. But I think it combined with the fact that this was my first time living not at college and not at home, and also very much sort of particularly like career and dreams and why on earth did I move to LA wise. I was very sort of without a paddle. Like I was like tutoring to make money, but I hadn't even attempted stand up yet. I wasn't like writing stuff on my own, and it was very much like, in a very literal sense, my car had been stolen and I wasn't at a good place sort of mental health wise there. But then also, I was very generally feeling sort of aimless and like, there was a question when I left college if I was going to like make the splash, move out to LA, not actually have anything, but try to pursue comedy nebulously, whatever that means.
In the location
or get like a firm job that would have been a possibility in New York, and like more people that I knew lived in New York, and that was, like my mom lived in New York. Right. So the fork in the road, and then 2 months after choosing one of the forks to have like, oh, I don't have a car anymore, and also I'm like scared of the world at night, and also like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Right.
It really came to a head in a beautiful way when I was after all this had happened. It had been like a few weeks without the car, and I'd just been, taking buses around and Ubers occasionally. And it was like actually starting to look for a new used car. And like, I went through a whole day of like going to different car dealerships. And then like, I was like, there was a car that I was like, ooh, I can actually afford this one. I took it to a shop, and they were like, hey, we're not going to even charge you for this inspection, but you need to not buy this car because this car dealer, painted over the rust spots on the bottom of the car. Don't buy this car. Don't do it.
Up.
And I was out in the middle.
Good, they told you.
Right. And I was out in the middle, like 30 minutes away from where I lived, and I was just like, and like then my phone died, and I was just like, and I broke down sobbing in a Starbucks bathroom, which was honestly poetic as hell.
They need that you gotta keep going,
that's the place to do it. Yeah, and then like the phone chats that I had after that, after my phone charged up with like some very good friends of mine, like my sister, my friend Tommy, who, a lot of it ended up being, you know, sort of around, again, like the concrete aspect of me not having a car and just feeling rattled and sort of alone, but then also just more nebulously me being like, what am I doing? I just left college. I was supposed to go do big things, and now I have no connection to the comedy industry. I have no connection to entertainment. I have and I didn't really feel like I had much of a direction in terms of like, wait, why am I doing all this, that sort of thing?
Right, you feel like you need, like everybody makes it seem like you need some sort of driving factor.
Right,
when in reality we're all kind of like, well, you can't really know.
Right.
But yeah, so that so it can feel like there's a void.
100%. Well, and a lot of the emerging out of that for me did come from like talking to friends and family like that who were basically like, you know, I think I was very much in a like, I haven't accomplished anything sort of thing, and they were like, you are but a wee boy in the real world.
Like,
it is
time.
So fine that you've achieved nothing. You can completely focus right now on like getting on your feet financially and, you know, getting a mode of transportation and, you know, taking care of yourself mental health wise before you try to like become a TV man, right? And I think that was a very important perspective to get from friends and family and whatnot. And, you know, and then it also was after that I was able to find those sort of more stable points in terms of friend group and in terms of like martial arts. That sort of thing. It was incredibly rude, Sierra, of you to then wait another 9 months before moving out here. That was pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Having a hard time? Hey, wait. Sit tight, buddy.
Don't care.
Hang out in that Starbucks. I'll come.
You stay crying in that Starbucks bathroom, and I'll
take my sweet time.
I'll be there.
But yes, I agree.
It was fair. You had to graduate from college.
On my part, but no, but yeah,
even.
I mean, well, so many questions, so many follow-up questions, but also,
hit me.
Well, I mean, and I think, you know, that feels like something that we all kind of feel and comes with like age too, and like sometimes we're not told that certain things will take time, or I always talk to this about like college friends of ours, because we went to like Harvard, and it's like, you know, this high achieving thing, and everybody's kind of in this bubble of like, oh, well, achievement is most important, number one, and it's like if you can't measure it, doesn't exist, kind of thing.
And speed of achievement as well. I think,
be young, you know, be like the young Zuckerberg, you know, that sort of thing, who you've emailed me.
Oh, Zuck.
Anyway,
that
but
didn't age well after
it didn't age well, but it's okay.
You know,
whatever.
the
Hopefully
disintegration of our democracy.
He's
gonna have a good kid.
You can like hang out with a kid. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I think something that like I had to learn for sure was like, reward yourself for things that like maybe you didn't think were achievements before, because we all took it for granted, being financially stable. Like I mean, and that's part of because like I grew up in like a very financially stable household, so like I never felt like that was a thing that I had to worry about. I even still like have the cushion of my family, you know what I mean, which is something like a lot of people don't have. So I think that in my head it was like, well, you know, I want that financial independence, but like, man, if I, you know, the fact that I'm even thinking about it now and it's a worry of mine, like felt like going backwards, even though even though that's not the case. But like I think certain things that like that I took for granted, especially that, and like being an adult and realizing like, oh, I'm actually not an adult and I'm like not mature.
Right.
Like I think like,
I am a child, but I happen to be in the real world.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I think that, you know, I always assumed, and maybe it comes from like the sort of academic background where it's like, oh, well, because we were like good at school, that must mean we're like successful in general, and like therefore all these things are owed to me. You know, like, and that's not a way, now I know, but I think it was sort of like, oh, well, the fact that like I don't know how to do basic like adult things is like, at first I thought, oh, well, that's kind of, I should know this stuff, but it's like, well, no, you shouldn't know anything until you learn it. Right.
Well, and it was a tricky thing around that time to be like, wait a minute, like I was like you said, I was good at school. Like I wrote essays very well.
Essays.
I
mean,
read
you wrote a
things.
thesis,
I wrote
which I did
a
not do.
thesis. I don't. What?
So.
But then to be like, wait a minute, that doesn't translate to writing
To,
scripts
like,
and being professionally
not being
successful.
able to like take down this knife man.
I
can write essays, or I can write circles around you, knife man. But I mean, that it doesn't necessarily translate to like every occupation in the world,
right? Or to literal just like to stable adulthood.
Like you can't turn in essays for money.
Right.
But
and
I mean, obviously
actually,
it is.
but it's less.
Fair. But yeah, you gotta write.
You gotta sell your
lame
soul.
Ones. Yeah. I mean, like that sort of, and I mean, and then at the same time, knowing that there was a path that maybe you could have taken, or we could have taken that would have also covered all those bases.
Right. There was very much a grass is greener sort of sense at that point, being like, wait a minute. I have friends who are living in a different city who have a super stable income, and they they go out to eat, and they have health insurance, and they oh my god, they go to bars and they buy a bunch of drinks.
I mean, and that's still like it took me like, I mean, even now I feel like I'm over it more and more every day.
Yeah,
but,
same.
But for a while there, that was like a part of maybe why everything felt like this better really fucking work.
Right.
Because the stakes are high, because look, I could have maybe had a regular job.
Right.
And not had to worry about like how much I was going to spend on rent. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I think even like for you and I and like our like group of friends, like it has honestly been, relatively speaking, more recent that it's felt like even just a stable like, hey, let's all regularly just like hang out, and that's chill, and like that is huge, I think, in terms of just everyone's happiness and whatnot.
Oh,
and like and then that I think has also sort of gone hand in hand with us all sort of figuring out our adult lives.
Well, I was
and
telling
being
you about
stable
this,
and
like seeing a lot of college friends. Do you mean like when you see college friends and like like being chill about it? Or wait, what do you mean?
No,
chill?
I just mean like literally more along the lines of like like when you would first moved out here or like moved back out here, and we would like see each other and hang out like once every like month and a half or whatever, right? Versus now, versus now community. Yeah, and now it's just like a less, it's a more chill, less of a like event to just like, oh, like I have a circle of folks who I can like rely on and be happy with and like do the thing. Yeah.
And that's so important now, I've learned.
Right.
But yeah, I think I like communityed pretty damn hard recently, because now I'm like, community. Now I have to like, be presentable. I can't just hold
I have
up
to like, I can't be a gremlin in my room.
Like grow a small beard.
Oh, I wish I could grow a beard. A little mustache?
So I used to bleach my mustache in high school. Did I tell you about this? I used to bleach my mustache in high school. I thought it was like a thing I should do. And then now I'm like, oh my god, that's like very funny, cute. You thought you had a mustache.
Cute.
And like whatever. I mean, I guess it's kind of there, but like it's fine.
What does even mustache bleaching entail? Like
it's
what
just,
is
dyeing the hair blonde so that it like doesn't show up as much, because I have
sort of,
black
like,
hair, so like technically speaking, it should show up more.
Huh.
But like I don't know. I think what happened is I started wearing makeup. So then I didn't wear makeup in high school. I like started in college mainly, and so then when you start to like darken other features of your face, like the lighter ones fade away. Fade away. But I mean, I love a good eyebrow.
Yeah. You eyebrow darken?
Eyebrows. I spoke to a nice woman yesterday who talked about microblading, which apparently
microblading.
Yeah, apparently it's like you tattoo your eyebrows on. I didn't know that. I thought it meant you're just shaving your eyebrows with microblades. I didn't know. And then she was like, "Oh, it's like a tattoo." I was like,
"Well, I have to do plucking action here, because otherwise this is going to converge right in the center." I have intense eyebrows. Well, I can do this too.
I think it's wow.
I'm waving my eyebrows for our
audio
listeners.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's better to err on the side of more eyebrows than you can reduce if you really want.
Hey,
I'm kind of on the like, there's a hair here and there. There's a hair everywhere. So it's not really like concentrated in the eyebrow place. Yeah, it's more kind of just spread about. So then you draw it in to be like, oh, this is kind of where it should be, but I don't really know. Anyway, well, that's good. That's our eyebrow talk. I should really have a segment.
This has been our eyebrow talk. All right, the eyebrow power hour. Have you ever gotten your eyebrows threaded?
No, because I'm scared of getting rid of any of them.
I need as much as I can get. I've gotten my eyebrows threaded when I was doing drag things. It was very painful, and then
I would cry.
but then it looked awesome.
Oh, good.
I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I mean, treat
Look how
yourself
sculpted these
every
are.
so often. But I know there's that third place real close to campus. And I walk by it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So they take a little like string and they kind of
Yeah,
wrap it around.
and
they
it's
like
just
numb cream anything or anything?
I
They
don't
just go
even
in there
know.
cold?
It all happened so fast.
I like used to pluck my eyebrows a little bit. Again, these are back in the day in high school where I thought like these things were necessary, and I would cry like because it wouldn't even
A
be like
single
sad,
tear.
right? Yeah, it's literally like a single tear. It's just like it makes your eye water.
It's like,
yeah, and then it overflows. Anyway, so everything's good.
it overflow. And that's been the Eyebrow Power Hour.
Eyebrow Power Hour. Oh.
Eyebrow
All right.
Power
New
Hour.
podcast idea.
Eyebrow Hour.
But okay, yes, community, having this sort of thing back into community.
Let's bring it back to
Back to community.
community.
But yeah, having the sort of people that you can, be vulnerable with, go in, and I think it
Yeah.
takes time to build up for sure.
Totally.
As it was clear for me, like I definitely, I need at least 8 hours at once to really loosen up.
To
with
loosen
people.
on up.
8 straight hours.
Well, and we had already greased the wheels of that in college
Yeah,
when we hung out
That's
with our
what's
good
great
friend Josh Bean. Shout out to Josh
hey,
Bean,
Josh Bean. How's law
at our
school?
Riv Mat. He's at River Mattress. When we were mentoring the freshman youth
There were
of the
mattresses
arts,
scattered
there were
about
mattresses
campus.
scattered about, and we were
swapping
on
them out for new ones, I guess. We would take them.
alcoholic substances, and we would just jump on the mattresses by the river. Just
Jump on
me,
them,
Sierra,
take it
and
by the
Josh
river,
Bean.
Take it to the
Yeah, take it
quad.
wherever. Take it
You can
wherever.
use them. I mean,
Sometimes
they're probably gross,
they're
but
very gross.
But I mean, what's a couple germs?
What's a couple
Makes you
germs
stronger.
between friends?
Yes.
So that was our initial community times, and then there was about a year and a
Wasn't there a
half
security
break.
card that saw us carrying out the mattress, and he said, "What's a mattress between friends?" and continued walking.
It was so
I mean, it's
iconic.
trash. We're just
It was
taking
iconic.
trash, but it's not like we're stealing anything, but
What's
like
a mattress
it was,
between
what's a mattress
friends?
between friends, and then walked away. He probably wasn't even a security guard.
No, probably
He was
not.
probably a magical human being.
I don't think he even existed. He was
I don't-
probably a
yeah,
figment
I
of
think
our
he was like
imagination.
a godfather, like a fairy godfather.
Yeah, he came to exist due to our sleep deprivation and
Fair. And
drugs.
imbibement,
Yeah.
drugs. Alcohol is a drug.
Alcohol is a drug.
But yeah, so that's that felt ugly. I feel like directly into this microphone. Yeah. So community, I agree. I think like
Huge.
for me too. Like, do you have any methods to get you back on track? Sometimes, in a positive sense. So like sometimes I like to. Oh, whatever. Listen to music. That's a common one.
Yep.
I feel like watching a good old show that I like brings me back to good old times. Sometimes rewatching
Did a good old
things.
time. I love
like
a good
that.
rewatch. Yeah.
Or any like methods. I mean, we can go outside. The sun's out. You know what I mean? Things
love
like
the
that.
outdoors. The watching old shows is always good.
Mm-hmm,
I've been rewatching Veep from the beginning, and it holds up.
Oh right, yeah. You've recommended.
I love it.
Unfortunately, still
Friends
also
are
It's
good.
almost
Like
like-
I think like there are times when like I'll go through a day where I'll be like, oh boy, I'm gonna get so many things done today.
Right.
I'm gonna write some things. I'm gonna edit some
Whoa.
things, and then
Some
the end.
weights, lift some weights.
Yeah. And then the end of the day comes, it's like, oh, I didn't do anything.
that's most days for me.
Therefore, logically speaking, I am a piece of shit. And then I'll be like, wait a minute, but on the horizon is hanging out with friends, and that will I think there was a period.
Friends, the TV show. Wait, or Friends. I'm confused.
Friends, as in literal friends.
Little
You,
friends. Oh,
Sierra,
I thought you meant
even.
like I'm hanging out with Jennifer
no,
Aniston.
no,
but that's
no,
fine.
no.
Cool,
And
that's
I
great.
think there was a period of time when I was not as good at letting go of the Sam, you didn't accomplish anything
Oh,
today.
okay. I'm
You
on the
haven't
same-
you haven't earned
Yeah.
getting drinks with friends tonight.
Oh, so
You
what would you do,
you
cancel?
piece of shit.
Or you would just-
I would either cancel or I would show up
Wow.
but just not be
You'd be
in
like
it, you know what I'm
punished.
saying?
Okay,
But
so
I think I've gotten much better at just being like, well, I guess hey, that day was shot
Right,
and tomorrow's
and that
another day, and
happens.
hey, it will be better if you're hanging out with folks.
Yeah,
And then
cool.
and I think it's a similar thing when at least during the week, teaching martial arts is always at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I'll be like, oh, haven't done anything up until 4:00.
Right.
But now it's 4:00, and hey, I'll teach
You
a kid
gotta
how to do
go.
a new kick or
And that's the
something,
thing.
and hopefully no
Yeah.
one will cry. And I think
Or
it, I think
but
it
yeah.
can. Having something, whether it's kicking things, martial arts, whether it's seeing some friends, whether it's a show, I think it can be very important and healthy and positive to try to actually use that to wipe to like clean slate,
slate.
wipe clean,
Ooh,
tabula
yeah, I like that
rasa.
Whoa,
Tabula
bring that Latin.
tabula
Is that Latin?
rasa. I did debate in high school.
Oh,
Okay,
God.
so
Get out of here.
get the fuck out.
We don't take you kids. I don't know.
Tabula
I never
rasa
did
means
that.
blank slate. Maybe
Uh-oh.
is maybe what it means. Is
Definitely means rasa table.
yeah, it's a rasa
Rasa
table.
table.
A
Rasa
rasta
box.
table. Rasa box.
Cool.
But
yeah, I
but
mean,
yeah,
that's
to like
a good way
actually
to look at
genuine
it.
to like, cause like if you're, you know, if you're going out to drinks with friends, or you're going to like work out and kick
Or
things or
medieval
whatnot,
times
or
in
medieval
Anaheim,
times.
California.
I'm so fucking excited. Holy shit, I'm so
But
excited.
yes, then you're like,
Yeah, like trying to
Still
like
go.
trying to make a concerted effort, even if like goals have not been accomplished and things have
Yeah.
not happened, to just be like, fuck it, like let's just have
Right.
be
you're
silly,
young.
have fun
We're
times.
young.
Be silly, have fun times.
Okay, I totally love that because I think I also like how every day gets better, but had the whole like beat myself up
Totally.
if I didn't do something right, and like just like that's kind of self
Right.
like a circle. It's like a
Yeah,
nasty
it's a-
cycle.
it can be a
What's
vicious
it called?
cycle.
A vicious cycle.
Vicious
Nasty,
cycle.
a
That's a
nasty
nasty cycle.
A nasty cycle. But yeah, that like you get into, and then that just so then I was like, I'm gonna stop beating myself up because it's like punishing myself twice, and then I'm gonna go and have fun at the thing, and then also I started because I made community, a term in my brain.
a
I thought
priority.
like you know, in a way, doing things like that are kind of feeding into like that area of your life. You're
Yeah.
like, this is also an accomplishment. Like
Right.
not even that like that makes it sound like I'm making it into some sort of like gross like check a box for a friend or
Sure,
something,
sure.
but it's not that. It's more just like oh, that's good that you're like making the effort in these areas
this
too,
is a-
because it's all part of the same like person.
Right. This is an
you.
intrinsically good thing to do.
Yes,
And like last weekend, we hung out with our good friend Veronica. Literally all that we
Ooh,
did
yes. We went
is
to
we
the park.
sat in the
Sorry,
park,
clap.
looked at dogs, drank
Great
mango
stuff.
beer, listened to
Beautiful lake.
good tunes.
Yeah, we
That's all we
did.
did for like a couple hours.
On your
And it
little
was like,
speaker. And it was great. And I like
Yeah.
I've like been wanting to do that all the time because it's a
It's
park close to here.
great.
And it's so fun. And
we're not going to do it this
low
weekend because we're going to
pressure.
medieval times instead.
Yeah, fair enough. But that is better than that.
We're going to
Let's
make
be real.
it a regular venture. And yeah, I think like
Mm-hmm.
it can be very easily, I think particularly like from the type of sort of high pressure mindset that we've talked about, like from college or from immediately
Where you're
post
like,
college,
I
to
need to
be
be
like,
working every
wait a minute, these 3 hours when I'm just sitting in the park with friends, just like casually day drinking and making comments about dogs, like
Positive.
what if I spend that time writing or
Right,
applying
or it's
for a
like,
job? And it's like,
you
you
don't
don't
know.
need to fucking do that.
Not like for
every
all the
day.
hours. And
Yeah.
also I think part of it too is like when you don't have a traditional job. Like for me, I kind of felt like, well, if everyone's working like 8-hour
9 to
days,
5,
yeah,
yeah,
then
then
like
I
should
need
I be
to
working
work
8-hour
9 to 5,
days?
yeah.
But then like even when I did have like a more traditional job, I wasn't working all those hours. You know what I mean? So I kind of like
the vast
map it onto that.
majority.
I'm like, well, most of those hours, like, I was like sitting googling other
Perusing
things
on
or doing my own
things.
thing, and then like yes, I would do tasks, and then one of my sometimes I would do tasks, but one of my former bosses, who's a great person, shout out to Alex, he would
Alex.
say, well. I don't want to make this a thing. No, he was like super productive and like hardworking and the best boss ever. But on top of that, I think he made a comment, like, kind of like as a joke. He was like, yeah, well, you know, like, basically every other day is productive. Or, like, it's like, even, and
Right.
like, say we're showing up to work every day, but, like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe you have one day where you're like, and this was like a coding job where you're like coding a ton. So then that does feel productive. And then one day where you're just like, kind of like getting ready for that next day. You
Right,
know what I
and
mean?
you're
So
like,
it's
my brain
or you're
isn't
like,
doing what it's supposed
I
to do
did a
today.
lot
Yeah.
yesterday. Like, I can't really like turn my brain on again.
Right.
I just turned it on.
Just
Yeah.
turn
So
it on,
then
give it a
when I
break.
heard somebody like him who's like really hardworking and like gets everything done and like is considered a really like high level person.
Right.
it's
Is
like,
known for being super productive.
If we're being, like you would want him on your team, like then I'm like, okay, then the pressure's a little bit off. Even
Right,
though,
yeah,
yes, like
yeah.
they're still showing up to work every day. It's
Totally,
not like they're
totally.
not, you know. But yeah,
Yeah.
so then I'm like, okay, well then maybe I can apply that to my life.
Right.
Even though, you know, I probably am even less productive than
Right.
that. But I'm not beating myself up about it.
Exactly. Well, like the my good friend Gus, who you know,
Gus?
he and I are
Gus. Whose real name is Philip.
His real name is Philip, and that's a whole scandal that I frankly don't think we have time for.
A whole scandal.
It's
Google it.
It's a scandal.
Hey, Google
the
it on
Gus,
your own time.
Gus Philip gate. It's a whole thing.
Right, yeah,
He goes by Gus. His real name's Philip. It's fucking. I don't
But
know.
he,
Anyway, like he and I are writing and working on a show together that we're
right.
we're gonna be
Beautiful.
pitching around soon,
Amazing.
and like we've you know. we set deadlines for ourselves because that's how you got to do those things.
Smart,
But there have been times when I think both. He doesn't live in LA, but he's, come out to LA a few times and we've like worked together and like we'll be working in my room for a while and then like we'll have the moment where I think like we'll both be sort of a little timid to tell the other one, hey, I'm not getting anything done right now.
Yeah.
But then like what we found is that like just being upfront about that, me being like, hey guys, like, I gotta be honest, my brain is not making any funny things right now, and I haven't done anything for the last 2 hours. And then usually the reaction will be him being like, oh my god, thank God, I'm fucking sane. Do you want to like walk to 7-Eleven now instead? And it's like, oh, thank you, wait off.
Refresh.
And it's like, sometimes, especially with creative endeavors, like you can push your brain and you can push your, supposed work ethic, whatever, to like to the max. But like, if you're not thinking of things, you're not thinking of things, and it's let's go on a walk, and then maybe we'll come back to this, or tomorrow a new day, and let's do that instead.
Yes, I had like a similar thing I think with the last job because it was like 2 writers. And like me. But I was like, I'm sorry, I've been Googling French Bulldogs the past 2 hours. I didn't know what to say.
I hope
and like
that's okay.
like it was always like fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's fair, and like more. It seems like more jobs are also like catching on to that. That's why like you always hear about like these tech startups. They have like massage rooms or like I mean that's a whole different scenario. But like it is true that like you can't just like be on the whole time, and you should punish yourself for it.
Yeah.
And celebrating the small things.
Celebrate the small things.
Speaking of celebrating small things.
Yes.
Do you have a high point?
Ooh. Do I have a high point?
We talked about the low.
Talk about the low. Talk about the high. You know what, Sierra?
Yeah.
Sierra? What? I would say a notable recent high point was, what fucking day is it? 2 weekends ago. It doesn't matter we don't know when this is gonna go. A couple weekends ago was my birthday, and it was a wonderful coalescence. Is that a word?
I think so.
Sure. It was like a wonderful coalescence of like happy things happening like professionally and all my friends being in one spot and just like all good things coming all together at once and being like, oh, a full realization of said community that I built out here all coming together and happy times. Because what had happened is the show that my friend Veronica and I, were on together was the night before my birthday.
Amazing.
I forced the whole audience to sing me happy birthday. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. Sing. And then, the following night we all pre-gamed at my apartment. We all went out and got a little silly, got some dancing in. It was a lot of like good just dancing times and all my friends being in one spot. And that a couple days.
Fat Sal's.
Oh my God, Fat Sal's.
So good.
I love that. Fat Sal's. This podcast brought to you by. Can I say that if it's not true?
Sure.
This podcast brought to you by Fat Sal's, the best fucking sandwich place on the planet.
It and we're both talking now. So
yeah, so it is what it is. It brought me here. It is the reason we're alive,
right,
arguably.
We could have totally just died.
Yeah, but it was cool because it was like right before then, my best friend Gus had been in town. We got to all like hang out all as a unit. I believe once Gus arrived in my apartment, you just you shoved a cup of alcohol into his hand.
He was kind of worried about not going out.
Right. He was like, oh, I've been on a plane all day. I've been on a plane.
Which I understand, but I have
I'm very tired. And you're like, I do not care. You must celebrate fun times. Yeah. So it was like friends from the East Coast, friends from the West Coast, all being in one spot. Comedy happening. I found out in that circle of a couple days, and exciting news about this Amazon Prime stand-up show that I'm going to be on very soon.
So you had showcase that.
Yes, I had previously had an audition showcase for this Amazon Prime show, Laugh After Dark. Amazing. And a mere 3 days later, which coincided pretty nicely around the time of my birthday, I found out that I was going to be on this show, which is very exciting. So I would call that a high, not for...
I was just plugging. You can catch that on Amazon Prime. Laugh After Dark Season 2. Catch it later.
Catch it. I don't know when it's going to be up.
Watch Sam's episode.
Watch my episode on repeat.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times in a row.
Thank you.
Thank you. I almost
But
just burped
yes,
into the microphone,
that's good.
but I didn't.
I already have multiple times, so I don't know if I'm going to edit that in post or
Good,
if it's actually just not going to come up.
It's
because
honestly
I've done
a
a
whole
lot
part
of,
of
you burp in your throat, but it don't come out your mouth.
You burp in your throat,
That's
don't come out your mouth.
That courtesy of me.
Listen, that's an industry insider scoop.
Hey, don't spread the word too hard.
Don't
Keep that
get
for
too
yourself.
crazy. And this
Don't
has
spend it
been
all in
Burp
one
Corner.
place.
But
time.
yeah,
Burp
I would say Burp Corner.
Because it's like you burp into a corner and it's like all in the corner and you're just
all
like,
in
oh
the-
man, if I just had like open walls, I wouldn't have to smell my own burps. I don't know what I'm talking about.
I don't know what's happening.
But yeah.
Yeah, I would say that high point there. What was cool about it is that
great.
I wouldn't pinpoint it on one thing in particular. It was
I
just
think
like
that's-
birthdays happening,
it's a zone.
and friends are all together, and cool success and goal achieved,
Right.
and just sort
And
of
it
all
kinda
at once,
feels
and things were good. It was a good, fun time.
Culminating.
Good.
That's awesome. And I think like that's what's cool, and I feel like a great summation of the sort of like community feeds into I say community so much, but yeah, that
Community.
like the community feeds into the thing, the career, even though sometimes people like to keep them separate.
Totally.
It can be the same.
It can come on
You gotta
together.
work on all parts. But that's great. I love to hear that it's a recent high point.
It is a recent high point.
Because
feeling good.
that means it's fresh.
Fresh.
And and like when you're kind of in those moments in between high points, I wonder like, do you have any ways of like keeping your head up? Because I feel like sometimes when I'm in low points, I feel like it feels like I've always been in a low point and I will always be in a low
Feels
point.
like a rut.
But it's weird because I know like logically and like I could say it out loud, okay, it won't always be like this, and it's never always been like this.
Right.
But like emotionally I can just feel like you can't see that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have people have said, oh, put like a I don't know, not like a vision board's kind of gross, but but no, people do that. That's fine. If you do, that's fine.
If you do, that's cool.
But I mean, like I even heard of like putting. I mean, that maybe that's what like feng shui is too, because it's like you put pictures of your family in a certain spot, and then you're like whatever, like your money in a certain spot. I don't know. I can't remember.
This is my money spot.
You put your money. You put all of your net worth in one spot of your house.
Pile of
ideally by
cash.
the front door, so somebody can grab it real quick.
Oh yeah.
But then I guess there's like ways to keep, if you see it visually, then it can help remind you. I don't know. Maybe now it's not a question, but I'm also just saying, well, because there's also certain things in feng shui where it's like, oh, and I literally know nothing about this, so I hate to be talking about it, but it's like, obviously some things are like kind of intuitive and may not actually be in some like magical space that's like feng shui.
Right.
But it's like, okay, take your trash out.
Don't stare at trash
because if
and
you're staring
dishes.
at trash, then your life is
I think that's
trash.
very, very real.
but I gotta do that more often.
I've first of all, I think cleaning and reorganizing one's room is a great mode of procrastination, and I do it frequently. Sometimes I'm like, well, I'm clearly not
clean. You're a clean.
I'm a clean boy.
Clean man.
I'm a clean man. I'm like, well, nothing will get done unless I organize all my Post-it notes and color and have everything color coded.
Right. How can you?
How on earth can I get out of this rut without reorganizing this color-coded stack of Post-it notes?
There's no other way.
But in terms of like, I think organization's big and cleanliness and all that jazz.
Nice.
I think like in terms of the question of like feeling like you're in a rut or in a low point and being like, when am I going to get out of it? I think like obviously easier said than done to be like, you don't know when the rut will end and da da da. I think I'm going to bring it back to community, Sierra.
Whoa.
I'm going to bring it back to community as a theme. But to see that like, let's like over the course of a week, if you've had like just a shitty shit week, which we all have,
Welcome to shit town.
Yeah, then like for example, this week for me was like not the best week in the world, but like what I've been looking towards the end of the week, I've been like, here are some goals to achieve. They didn't get achieved, and it is what it is. But you know what's happening at the end of this week? Medieval fucking times. Yeah, so I think it's like it can be so legit, like you said, to not necessarily like it can almost feel weird to put the same type of value on spending time with friends or just chilling and whatnot as you put on a more of a sort of supposed like professional success and that sort of thing. But I think it's also super legit to be like, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I can beat myself up about not finishing this goal or whatnot, but like on Sunday I'm going to Medieval Times, or like on Saturday night I'm just gonna like grab dinner with some friends or whatever.
Cool.
Like
Yes, I see. Yeah, no, that's great.
I think that
have those
helps.
Little markers
It's to like
that you'll be able to let
yeah,
loose.
you know that
Good old
you
time.
that might not those type of things might not necessarily get you out of the rut or get you or transfer you from low point to high point, but I think they're important at the very least, sort of blips where you can like. In the imagery of you're in a rut, the rut's above your head, you can like pop out and you're like, ooh, sunshine. And then it's like, oh, I might land back on the rut, but that's what it is. But I can sort of keep jumping and bouncing.
Love it.
And then
Love it.
At some point, I shall emerge from the rut.
Wow.
Wonder Woman.
I believe it. Wonder Woman?
I don't know. When you said rut, I then pictured like the like World War I trenches and like.
Oh, No Man's Land.
No Man's Land, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the trenches. Oh, man. What a great fun scene.
Very good scene.
Would never want to be in war. Controversial opinion.
Controversial opinion. Would not like to be in war.
Controversial opinion, but
yeah,
not.
I don't think either of us.
Not a big trenches woman.
No. I don't think either of us. I don't think either of us would do well in war either.
I thought about it a lot, and no.
We wouldn't be good at it.
But glad that we're not.
We're not in war.
We're very happy.
Yet.
About that. Keep it that way.
Keep it. No war, please.
No war.
Please, no war.
But yeah, no, that's cool. I like the idea of, setting like almost checkpoints for yourself too.
Yeah,
where you're
yeah.
I mean, who knows if that future point you're going to be bummed or whatever
Right.
and need that, but like it's still good to have it cuz
Totally.
I mean, the minute just like stepping outside, changing up your routine, like,
Right.
it could just,
Bow.
changes things up.
Mixed
You're
up.
like, wow, am I a Medieval Times person now? This could be my new life. Should I be a knight?
You might be
Should
about
I
to
be
be.
a queen?
These are the questions.
So many options. Should I be a 12-year-old having the birthday at Medieval Times? You can be any of those people.
Fuck yeah.
So I think that the checkpoint thing, that's fair. That's great stuff.
I love good checkpoints.
Yeah, and then, I mean, we've covered a lot.
We've covered some
We're
good
pretty
ground.
close. We're at the hour. But
We
but
did
yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else that you've learned in these? I mean, because these are formative years.
These are very formative years.
And I mean, I think like, or even that you learned as a child.
Ooh. As a youth.
Or like, growing up and things like that, pre-adulthood.
Pre-adult.
But I mean, I think I focus on these years right now because that's kind of where I'm at.
That's
so
where
it's
we're
selfish,
at. Yeah.
But it's also like, I don't know. I mean, sometimes most of our learning is freshest in our head and most recently,
Totally.
all that
Well,
fun
I think
stuff.
like I think these last few years, like since graduating, have been like simultaneously the most tumultuous, but then also
Choppy
in
waters.
large part because of the tumult, if you will. Is that the noun form of tumultuous?
I hope
You
so.
bet it is. In large part because of the tumult.
Tumult.
It has been, it has like also been some of the highest of highs, right?
Yeah.
And that's like, that's exciting, particularly like emerging out of the low point, like of that first year, like sort of as we had
Right.
discussed earlier, being like, oh wait,
Did I make the right choice?
yeah, did I fully peak junior year of college?
Sure.
Is
That's
this
always a
how it
scary
is now? Etc. Like, yeah. Wait, what was the question?
No, just like
just
anything
general
you wanted to add.
takeaways.
Yeah. What
I
you are
think-
adding.
I'm adding.
You brought in tumult.
I bought in tumult.
You're adding to the conversation.
I do what I can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think sort of a bunch of what we've said today is like, yeah, I like this discussion.
Yeah, I mean, and it's ongoing because we're still
Right.
like learning.
No, I mean, like,
So, yeah.
I like getting this discussion like actually fully out there because I think it can be very valuable to just explicitly say some of the things you're feeling in
Totally.
terms of
Oh,
like
yeah.
in terms of actually explicitly like putting value out there on the time that you spend with friends,
Sure,
on
yeah, 'cause
on the
otherwise
times when you
unspoken.
sort of separate yourself from either the stress that like your industry is putting on you, that you're putting on yourself because of where you stand within said industry, etc. Like I think there's no shame at all, and in fact it's the opposite, whatever the opposite of shame is. Pride? Ooh.
know.
I think
Makes
pride.
sense.
I think
Uh-huh.
probably pride.
Yeah.
Pride rock. Simba.
Just
In
case.
putting like honestly a tremendous amount of like of intrinsic value on just like the time that you spend with people who you like and love, and
Yeah, I
do
wonder if
that.
that's,
Like, make
'cause
that time
culturally
for
it
yourself.
Feels like that's not a huge thing. I mean, I think
Right.
with social media, like it's actually going up, which is funny.
Yeah,
like, the
in
idea,
a weird way.
Ooh, FOMO.
Ooh, fun. Ooh, fun.
Look what we're doing without you.
Right.
But like, I think like there's a lot of things culturally that maybe like are kind of in the like ambition mindset where it's sort of like, me for myself, all out.
Right.
I'm a Wall Street banker and I need to screw everyone.
I'm a Wall Street banker.
And
Well,
like
yeah.
that sort of individual ambition
Totally.
is never about hanging out with friends.
Right. Well, and it's like that kind of ambition, I think, like both comes from like our lifelong schooling,
Sure,
right?
yeah,
and
yeah,
it
yeah.
and then
Which
it
is
also
all
comes into from
individual,
entertainment and from comedy and from just like it is so easy to compare yourself to
Sure.
other people who are
Looking sideways.
of your age, etc., who are like doing exciting things and whatnot. But yeah, I think I think it's genuinely something that in like my first year out of college and whatnot, like I actively did not place value on that sort of like, yay, friendship,
Sure.
good
Yeah, and
times.
Like, there's nothing telling you to do that.
Right. I was
And
like,
nothing- yeah,
well,
so that's what's
and it is
hard.
that mentality that I think can, in the moment, be like, this is the mentality that I need to have, but can often be counterproductive and unhealthy to be like, well, other people are out being with their friends,
Right,
I'm
right.
grinding,
Oh, yeah.
or like
The
whatever.
grind.
It's all in
Yeah,
the
sure, I haven't
grind.
seen the sunlight in 8 days,
but fuck
but
that.
I'm on the grind.
Yeah,
and
which
I
is
think
a
like
thing.
another way to conceptualize of that is particularly in what we're trying to do in comedy. Like I think there is so much value to that like human contact and just having and to like having
Yeah.
fun. Like
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the thing
You
is
gotta,
like,
like, pull it from somewhere,
right.
right?
I
Uh-huh.
am funnier and I'm better at writing and I'm better at like, producing things for my job and whatnot when I'm in a good place where I'm like hanging out with friends and having a good time. Like
I
I
feel
think
similarly,
right.
And like I feel like there's such a big thing about romanticizing like the sad clown and being
Right.
like, well, yeah, you're depressed, but make art. I can't
Right.
do it when I'm sad.
Yeah, I'm like, and for some people they can. Like some people
Right,
can
I
like
feel
draw
that.
a lot of
Makes a
comedy
lot of
and a lot
sense.
of like creative inspiration from their lowest points. But yeah, for me, I'm like,
can't do that.
For me, I'm like, I am going to be funnier and I'm going to be better when I'm like hanging out
Right.
with folks. And also
Yeah,
like.
yeah. Cool.
Also, like I'm
good.
much bigger
Good you know that
on
about
like
yourself.
on like collaborating with folks
Cool.
and like having like
Synergy.
we don't know based on the timelines of a project that we are embarking
Right,
upon
but
and
that
the
could-
release of this podcast, whether those things shall coalesce or not. But a good example is that my good friend Sierra and I'll say it, my great friend Sierra and I
I've been
are
upgraded.
releasing something that we've been working on for a long time that we're very excited about.
We're working on, but we're not
Working
getting
on-
ourselves up about it.
Exactly. Well, and I think that's actually an important thing about it is that like, first of all, I'm very excited for this. I think it's gonna be
Yes,
super
we
funny
love
and
the
it's gonna be a
concept.
fun weekly thing to work on and to put out into the world.
Totally.
But we've we've beefed several deadlines we set for
Sure.
ourselves.
I mean,
But once that
knowing full
happened,
well that we're not gonna, it's
Right.
not gonna ruin us.
right. We weren't like originally we were like October 17th we're launching this thing we've
yeah.
been working
And,
on,
like,
and
now
then
it's
it's
not
not
that anymore.
that
But that's
time
okay.
anymore. But we're just sort of like,
We did
yeah,
our
it'll
best.
happen. But yeah.
And now we're going to medieval times.
Now we're going to
but
fucking
yeah,
medieval
I
times.
agree that like collaborating is way more fun,
Mm-hmm.
and you can do a lot more stuff with that. And
Right.
that's
Well,
part of like why we get into this. It's
Right.
like, well, you kind of want to hang out with funny
100%.
people, and then
well,
they
yeah,
make you laugh,
and it's
I
it's
like
the
to
sort of
laugh,
thing
so.
that if you do need to justify having fun times with friends to yourself in a way that is productivity or success minded, which I think I have sometimes needed to do because
Got
of
it.
that mindset of like I need to be doing the most, I need to be kicking ass right now, like
Kicking ass.
yeah,
taking names,
kicking ass,
Kicking
taking names.
ass,
I think it's very legitimate to like, you can be like, I am better at the things that I want to be successful at when I'm fucking happy
Yeah,
and
yeah,
high
and,
energy
like,
and with
doing-
friends and
yeah,
doing
yeah.
fun things. And
Yeah.
it's like it all then. I'm doing motions with my
yeah,
hands
I
that
mean,
make a
this
lot
is
of sense
important.
right
This
now,
feels
everybody.
like DNA.
But DNA. I'm making
But,
sines and cosines with
but
my
what
hands.
I like,
They coalesce.
This is true.
I've
What
said
I
coalesce
do-
too many times today.
I like it. I think it fits only for that though.
Yeah.
Never again.
Never.
But what I do like about what you're saying. Damn it. What was I going to say? I guess. Oh yeah. No. Did I know?
You know.
Okay. So we were talking about friends.
Friendship. How
Productivity.
having fun times
Farts.
with friends, farts, how having fun times with friends contributes to success in other areas. Is that what we're saying?
Right.
And how therefore it is important and
Important.
wonderful to prioritize fun times with friends.
I mean, look, you're just killing it. I don't know what I was going to
appreciate
say,
it.
but that all makes a lot of sense, and I like that. You know, building it into the lifestyle, being like, look, what is job and play? We can all mix it together.
Job and play together.
Right? Because
we should.
basically, because that's cool. Like, very mature of us.
We're very
to be
mature.
like, you know what? We're just going to be able to do all the things
You know what?
and have a good old time.
What if we lie
Damn
down
it,
in the
I'm
park
not
today?
saying because I'm trying to figure out what
You're
I was
trying to
gonna
find
say,
what you were
but
going to say.
literally,
You
and
just
I don't think
you
it was
did
even that good.
Well, you did just say good things.
Okay, good.
Even if they
Thank
weren't the
you.
planned things, they were good things.
Not planned at all. All unplanned, surprisingly, right? Off the
Surprise.
cuff. No, but yeah, I mean, that's all good stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
think what I was going to say kind of is just like, you know, sort of I think it's a thing that like we're going to get better at as we get older, but like the comparing thing or like any of those things have gradually gotten better.
Yeah. Well, it's like
I don't know what I was gonna say,
no,
but I
see
mean
what
that's
you're
for
saying.
sure true.
Yeah, we've learned to place importance on more important things.
More well-rounded, well-balanced things. Somebody asked
Yeah.
me when I was having lunch, was like, "Do you feel like you have a well-balanced life?" Or I feel like there's various people have kind of asked me that because
It's a question of balance, yeah.
maybe at our age, it's like we haven't really learned that yet, and it's like we
Right.
still haven't learned that in some ways.
I don't know
because
how to cook.
There's like, well, cooking is the third tier of the well-balanced life.
All right, well, I got to
No,
get
I'm just
on
kidding.
that.
I have no idea. But what I mean is that, you know, we don't have like kids yet,
Right.
I guess. So if that's something that like that'll take a little more time.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just the idea that like maybe we've never had to pay attention to anything besides like just one area of your
Yeah.
life, which is kind of like
Yeah.
career or like student or
Right,
whatever.
right.
And then now it's like, oh, actually, there's like other areas that are just as important and I think there's, well, I mean, a big thing that I have spoken to you about community.
Community.
Is that a big reason why I was like so obsessed with the word communities? Because I think I listened to a podcast or something where like they're talking about like long life and studying areas, studying like groups and people who like had like their happiest moments or like nostalgic moments, and a lot was based in community. So even if it
Yeah.
was like something tragic happened, it was just the fact that they all like banded together.
Right.
Wow, I can't believe that humanity can do this, right?
Oy,
And
yeah.
then the same thing for like this one small town in Japan or something where they like had the longest living people.
Right.
And it's like because like exercise is built into their day, so there's like a lot of health benefits. But
Uh-huh.
also they had like a community, so that's why like benefits of maybe when you're old and you have
Yeah.
a spouse. That's why like spouses kind of die at the same time because it's like, well,
Right,
there goes
right.
the community.
There goes.
No, I mean not all the time. Or like if they're in a rest home or something, that's
Sure.
like, probably good for them. Anyway, so it's good to be young and try to like also have community.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like we take it for granted because you're kind of like, well, you're young, you should have a lot of friends,
Yeah,
you go out, you go to the bar, but
friends.
it's like I don't know, you kind of got to work on it.
Yeah, you gotta.
It takes
And
a
like,
work on it time.
and listen, Sierra, we got good friends.
I know we've
You're one of 'em.
communitied.
I feel like
hard.
here's a thing that I have recently reflected upon. Sierra and I have for a long time had a running bit that we are mortal enemies,
Well, we are, but
which remains true.
Yeah.
But I feel like the bit has
subsided.
subsided a little bit. I mean, you're still my mortal enemy.
Well,
I
is it
hate you.
because
We've been spending a lot more time with each other. We've been hanging out a lot
it's harder
more.
to fool others.
Yeah.
So they're like, I don't believe this.
Because they're like, I don't know, they hang
I
out a lot.
believed it before when you guys were clearly fighting to the death.
When you guys were fighting to that, but it's
I'm
like now we're like,
really?
all right, listen. I mean, we can put on the veneer of being enemies if we need to. And
I mean,
I was about to say
yeah.
medieval times about to be the time for that, but honestly, we're all going to be on the same team.
I know.
We're going to be
It'll
rooting
it'll
for
be a
whichever
real-
knight they assign to us.
Right.
And
Which
I
will
don't.
be a color.
It'll be a
like
color.
Green knight.
Green
blue
knight, blue knight, whichever knight they assign us, we will
Right.
ruthlessly
I mean,
root
face
for
paint.
said knight.
We
yeah.
should face paint. Bring a
I would
palette.
actually be down. Yeah. But like, what? Yeah. Now it's just like, hey, friends.
Well, okay. So this podcast has been very fun because I feel like I talk to you all the time, but like this is like a formal way to talk.
yeah.
But also,
we've
like,
more.
I realized I don't think I ever knew. Well, I knew about your carjacking, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like it is true that like sometimes, and maybe why I'm doing this podcast, but also just like talking to friends, like being vulnerable with friends is like so hard.
It can be very difficult, yeah.
And like that's kind of a point at which and like it's different though, because I think sometimes some people are the types of people where they are only vulnerable with friends.
Right.
Because that is a great way to build friendship.
Totally.
But, you know, I don't know if that's necessarily like I would kind of find myself doing that sometimes if it was like people were asking about certain areas of my life. I would sometimes only want to tell like
if
the
it
bad
comes
parts.
up, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, or like I'd only want to tell like the bad parts because it's like, well, I mean, this feels like a little bit more what wants to be heard right now. I don't know, maybe I was being weird, but like I think what's refreshing is like, you know, we have both sides where it's like, oh, like highs, but like also want to hear the lows because it is like so important.
Right.
Just to know.
Yeah, and I think you can have those friends certainly where it's like basically when you see said friend or said group of friends, it's like we're gonna have fun and we're gonna drink and we're gonna out and we're gonna like yeah, fun.
High energy.
But I think like
out
you and I particularly more recently we've been much more
real talk,
candid and real talk and vulnerable with each
Yeah,
other, which I think is
which-
like very much a sign of like, oh, that's a good close friendship.
Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. It takes friendship. I don't know.
It takes medieval
It takes
times.
medieval.
But yeah,
Oh!
for sure.